HSP and SC Village apparently have problems, or they're apparently pissing off let's say a good-sized element of players, because I asked, hey, what videos do you want me to talk about from a reffing standpoint? And let's say a fair group of people sent me the same. I think I've got like 4 or 5 videos. I put them in what I'm going to start doing from now on is I'm just going to start making playlists, because I'm using slobs and it's just easier for me to playlist things this way. We're not going to play the whole thing, and it's kind of hard for you to hear the audio, but I will link the videos down in the description. I think I'm supposed to do this or something. I don't know what YouTubers do. So this one is SC Airsoft Village is garbage. The context is apparently they were having some sort of issue, and this is like a sort of a come to Jesus moment with the ref. The lady in the gray top in the sort of center frame here is the ref giving her little spiel on things. 2 things that I found interesting was she says no aggressive play. When I hear that, what that tells me is that's a snowflake field. Zero tolerance for aggressive play. Here's the problem with something like that. Aggressive play is an ambiguous term. I've already gone on plenty of rants on ambiguity in a rule set. If there's ambiguity, then it's the field's fault. So someone's going to ask, hey, what is aggressive play? And she kind of shoots herself in the foot. What constitutes aggressive play? Yep, that's right. That means she has no idea what's going on. Spawn sweeping isn't aggressive play. Spawn sweeping is, my understanding, banned at every field. You're not allowed to spawn sweep ever. So unless they're using a different context of spawn sweeping that I understand it to be, the way she explains it, that doesn't sound like aggressive play. That sounds like a rules violation.
Trying to get the spawn kills, that counts as aggressive play. If you are sweeping the field, not really caring about anybody that's there, you're just going through, that's aggressive play.
I don't know what that means.
If you refuse to use parlay or bang bang, that is aggressive play.
That's a rules violation. That's not.
If you decide to feather your trigger, that is aggressive play. Any one of those things constitutes as aggressive play.
So her definitions of aggressive play are terrible, because it sounds like 3 of them are egregious rules violations. I don't know a single field that will allow you to shoot at players while they're in a spawn point. I've never seen that. The second one sounds very ambiguous. Doesn't really know what she doesn't know what she's talking about. She got cornered. She does the same mistake that every other airsoft ref says, and expects you to understand what they're talking about, because they don't know how to explain what they want you to do, because they don't care, because they're expecting to play. They're catering to babies. That's what they're doing. It's a snowflake field. What do you want? Not using bang bang or parlay. If that's a field rule, then that's not aggressive play. That's breaking a rule. There's a difference between aggression and breaking a rule. They're 2 very different things. It's ridiculous. Aggression is based upon behavior and conduct. Breaking a rule is breaking a written rule of the field. I don't understand why they're blending the 2. Oh wait, because they don't seem to be the smartest. Whatever. So here's what this field and apparently a couple other fields, I think HSP does the same thing, because HSP and SC Village are owned by the same entity, and so is what's the one down in San Diego? They're all owned by the same entity. They break them up into A and B categories. I think they take this concept from paintball, because these are all these fields are primarily paintball fields. I think this is why you see this. The A players are expected to be the higher level guys. The B players are like the rentals and the casuals and the cosplayers, the guys that don't really care, that just kind of want to run around and do whatever. The problem with that is no one ever wants to be against competitive players because everyone's ego is so fragile because they're little baby snowflakes. They don't want to get their fragile little egos broken, so they don't want to play against guys that actually have skill. They just want to run around and talk about camo and relive some movie scene somewhere. They want to live in a fantasy world other than what Airsoft already is. They don't want to go against players with actual skill in the game. They're snowflakes. What do you want? Here's the problem with that Alpha Bravo split. Because not a lot of kids want to join the Alpha side, that side is left with like 10 people on what I'm presuming is a fairly large sized field. Bro, that's not fun. You want a target-rich environment. You want constant action. If there's 10 dudes on the field, unless you're running like a continuous respawn free-for-all, that's not very fun. Where's the action? Where's the constant play going on? Where's the constant action? Where's the continuous mode? It's boring because all the snowflakes are on the B team because, again, they don't want to play against skilled players. They just want to talk about camo and optics and blah, 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 and do whatever, which is fine, but fields need to understand that when you break players up by skill, if not everyone wants to play with the guys that are willing to admit that they have skill, you're going to have a problem. Because guys are just going to start saying, nah, I'm a noob, it's cool. Bro, you're wearing a team patch, you're rocking what looks like a high-quality gun, you have expensive stuff on. Okay. What do you expect? Kids show up, they just want to play. They want to play against a lot of people and have fun with their friends. When you try and start separating skill levels, when you try and start segregating players, you're going to have problems. So, expect these problems. I blame most fields for their own problems because of their rule set or because of their inability to define a rule set. And for other reasons. I mostly blame fields for their own problems. It's not the players, it's the fields. So here's another one at SC Village. I guess the context is it was like a free-for-all style game, and it was down to the last 3 players who were also very good friends. This particular match was ruled as a semi-only match, and I'll show you what ends up happening. So they decide to full auto each other in a one-on-one, even though they're not technically supposed to. So the issue is technically per field rules, they weren't allowed to full auto each other, even though they already had an understanding. They had a pre-existing thing like, hey, if it's just us, let's just full auto each other for, chuckles and grins. This is a classic issue of letter of the rule versus spirit of the rule. So technically those phrases are usually referred to as letter of the law versus spirit of the law. It's not really a legal context. This is just like an administrative field rule. So it's the letter of the rule says no full auto. Well, if we look at the spirit of that, the reason we have that is for safety reasons and for a bunch of other silly reasons and for controlling a bunch of other things. Well, given the spirit of what happened, it violates the letter of the rule, but it doesn't violate the spirit of the rule, because if you watch the video, there's no malice, there's no hatred, there's no negativity. It's just 2 dudes wearing, plate carriers and some long sleeve shirts and all kinds of protective gear, and they full auto each other a little bit. Just a little meh. Most fields I play at that I can think of would probably act in the same way. Just, okay, I get it, just please, quick rules reminder, please just make sure that you guys don't do that during open play, blah, 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 blah. Because it was a violation of the letter more so than the spirit. So it's technically, in this scenario, the ref is correct. His job is to enforce the letter of the rules and then report it to any supervisors. So before anyone gets just super aggro, remember what the ref's job is. Technically, his job is to enforce the rules. They broke the rules. There you have it. So, to me, you can kind of go 50-50 on this, but as a ref, as a head ref at a field, I do side with the ref on this one because those guys knew, I'm assuming they knew ahead of time, that they weren't supposed to do that. What do you want? But it's not that bad. As long as those guys, if those guys were briefed ahead of time, hey, you're not allowed to do this, well, they broke a rule. They knew they were breaking the rule. They knew they shouldn't have done that, even though they both consented to it. Just because the whole team breaks the rule doesn't mean it's right. It just means the whole team gets in trouble.
Caber, who the f*** are you, nerd?